By the end of this video, you're going to have the exact steps you need in order to take your podcast and turn it into summary notes and promotional materials in less than 10 minutes. This is going to be perfect for you if you are a podcaster yourself. You'll be able to cut costs and you'll be so much more efficient in the work you do. Plus, you'll get it done exactly how you like it done. Or you may be an agency where you want to improve your efficiency so that you can take on more clients and make more money. Or maybe you are just starting a podcast and you want to find a simple and cost-effective way in order to produce a really high quality product without paying a lot of money to get started. Because here's the thing, I started online 9 years ago, and this exact process that I'm about to show you costs hundreds of dollars to do just for one episode and took at least 6 hours to complete. Now we can do it in less than 10 minutes, which is pretty mind-blowing. Because there's one big problem with podcasts, and according to this Reddit post, there's 90% of podcasts don't publish more than 3 episodes, and the ones that do get past that point, 90% will quit after 20 episodes. So why is that? I think a big reason is because of the inefficiencies and the costs that have to go into producing a really high quality podcast. Firstly, you've got all of your camera and audio gear that you need to set up to make sure that you stand out these days. No longer can you get away with low quality video or low quality sound. You just have to be competing at the highest level these days. But secondly, once business becomes a little bit tough or a little bit busy, it's the podcast that seems to be the first thing to go. It is seen as one of the non-essential parts of your business. But when a podcast is done right and when it's done consistently over a long period of time, it can be a great resource for your business so that you can stay in front of your customers all the time and really be that person that is seen to be an authority. Now, there are different tools out there that can help you automate some of these promotional materials, but overall, it does start to add up in costs as well. If we build our own automations, we could do transcripts and promotional materials for less than $1. Whereas with some of these softwares, you may have to pay upwards of $40 per month, which if you're a newbie starting out, that can quickly add up. Secondly, with these softwares, you don't always get it done exactly how you like it done. Now, the benefit of the automation that I'm about to show you is that you can create the exact prompts that you need and that you want to make sure you're getting the quality that you desire. Okay, so let's dive in and check out all of the things that we need to do once we do create this podcast. So let's say we've recorded the episode up here. Now, there are ultimately 3 main steps of what we need to do from here. Step number 1 is to take it down into video and audio editing. I'm not going to dive into that today, but there are some really great programs that can also streamline this using AI and other tools as well. Second, we need to do the show notes. So in the show notes, we will generally have an introduction. We'll have some key points. We'll have some timestamps. We'll have resources mentioned on the podcast. And maybe we'll do like an outro as well. So all of these things are going to be automated. Once they are automated, then we then push it into the promotional section. And in the promotional section, then we're going to have an email to our database, and then we're going to have all of the different social media marketing assets as well. So the ultimate goal here is these show notes used to take 3 to 4 hours many years ago, and we're going to get this down into under 10 minutes, including the human editing time. And then the promotional one would take another at least 1 hour, depending on who was doing it and how much experience you'd have. And we're going to get this one into under 5 minutes. Ultimately, I think you could get the prompts to where these could actually be less than 2 minutes each, but let's give ourselves a conservative target to begin with. So in order to achieve this goal, we need 3 particular programs. Number 1 is make.com. So make.com is going to help us automate it and connect into different APIs. Second, we want to then get an Airtable account. Airtable makes APIs really easy to use. If you're already using Notion, that's also another possibility, and you can just change up a couple of things. And there are other ways to do it too, but I find Airtable makes it the easiest way possible. And then third, you're going to need an OpenAI developer platform account. So this is in platform.openai.com, and then you'll need to fund your account with a little bit of money so that we can access the API. And don't worry, it's not going to cost you a lot. It'll cost you less than $1 to achieve everything that we want to do. Now, the first place that we need to begin is to set up Airtable. So we're going to come into and set up a workspace from over on the left here. So I just created a demo workspace for this particular instance and then create a base. So generally, I just like to start with a blank table. In this instance, let's give it a name of podcast demo, and table 1 is fine. So let's make this first field our episode number. The next one is going to be the speaker name. If you have multiple speakers, then you may have a guest name. Here we want to put in a long text and our transcript. So they're going to be the main ones that we fill in ourselves. Soon we'll create a button, but we can't do that right now. But the other fields that we need to create now are also for the title, the introduction, the key takeaways, the timestamps, the notable quotes, any resources that were mentioned. And then a final one, which we're going to do a bit of manual editing, is the final summary. Next, we can come into our make.com dashboard, and then the top right, we go to create a new scenario. So we're just going to give this scenario a name, which I'm just going to call Demo Podcast Notes. And we want to begin by searching for a webhook. So we select custom webhook and choose a trigger. So I've already set this up. If not, it'll just prompt you to set it up, give it a name. And if you have any IP issues, then you would add those there, but typically you won't. It then gives us this URL right here. So what we need to do is just copy this to the clipboard, click OK, and then come back into our Airtable. So now we can add in the button to the right of the transcript, and we're just going to call this a trigger, and I'm just going to search for a button, and we need to add in a formula. So I'm just going to paste the formula that you need in the description to make it really easy for you. Honestly, I don't understand it that well either. I'm not a developer, but this is from the documentation that we need, and it's a concatenate formula, and all we need to do is paste that in there. It's also got a variable record ID at the end there, which is important. And we can just grab what's after the make.com / and replace that, all of the X's, with that particular code there from the URL. Once you've changed that, then we can just remove all of this stuff. And now this will save into our Airtable. So what this will do is the webhook will trigger, and then it will be able to search for the right data for where we need it. So what we're going to do now is just go run once, and we'll come into our Airtable and we'll just click this button here. That will then trigger the first webhook with our record ID here, and we should get a 1 here, and it will show the record ID. So now that we have that, we can move on to add another module, and then we're going to add an Airtable module. So if you've not set up Airtable yet, it may ask you to create an API call, and the documentation is in make.com. It's very easy to follow. Just follow that, and then you'll have all of these records to choose from. First, we're going to go get a record. So this will then ask for our base. So we're looking for the podcast demo. It will then ask for the table, which is table 1. And then we need to add in this record ID variable into the record ID section here. Then click OK. So now we're going to run this with some data in these first few sections. Okay, so I've added in the speaker name, guest name, and transcript for Airtable here. So we're just going to trigger this so we can collect some information in Airtable to use moving forward. So we're just going to click run once again. We're going to come up, hit this button, and now it has got the one here and here. So if we open this up, we can see that it has picked up the episode number, guest name, speaker name, and then the transcript information in there as well. Perfect. That's exactly what we need. Now we can begin to connect OpenAI, but first we want to go to the router and begin to create some control over the different flows. So we've put in the router, and then we can add more as we go. Next up, we can now connect in with OpenAI. So I'll search for the OpenAI module, and it will ask you to API in, and it will give you the exact instructions you need to follow in order to do so. Once you have, then you'll be able to see actions like this. First, we're going to go create a completion. Now, this is where you can prompt OpenAI exactly how you want to. And I would recommend that you create all your prompts first. And I recommend that you do it in a way that says context and then instruction. And this is how we're going to set it up. So we're going to choose a model first. So there are all sorts of different models here that we can use. The most up-to-date one at the current moment is GPT-4. However, what I'm finding is for some of these particular tasks, GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K, which has a longer context window, is working good enough. And the reason why I say that is because this particular one is way cheaper than GPT-4 currently. So if you do want to save a little bit of money on your automations, when you're not writing copy that is going to be seen in the world and you just need it to collect data like we are in this particular case, then 3.5 Turbo, I would test that so that you can save a little bit of money. So we're now going to create our prompts for the system. We do this in the messages section, and we can choose these roles. Mostly the user is going to be the main one, but we can also prompt the system with some context as well. So I found out this information from arise.com, and here they have a good explanation of the roles. So commonly used roles include system, user, and assistant. The system provides high-level instructions, the user presents queries or prompts, and the assistant is the model's response. So that's exactly how I'm going to use it. I'm going to use the system to provide some context. So this context now is going to review the transcript. So we just need to reconfigure this and add this transcript variable in here so that it looks at the context first. And then we're going to add in a user role, and then we're going to paste in our instruction prompt here. Perfect. So we have our system, we have our user role. So now I want to open up some advanced settings. So show advanced settings and come down and have a look here. So this particular prompt here is for creating an engaging title for the podcast. So we don't need a lot of tokens. And in order to find out how many tokens equal how many words, you can just start with OpenAI. So we just go OpenAI token counter. And you can just go to this tokenizer, OpenAI platform, and it'll count the tokens that you want and give you an explanation for that. There is also an article that helps, and I found just referencing this every now and then is good enough. But to get a few different titles, then we don't need a lot of tokens. So I'm just going to put in here 300 to be safe, but that's probably way too many as well. So we can put in our tokens here, 300, just to make sure that we're not going too far overboard. And then this one is the temperature, where we can get quite strict. And basically what that means is the higher it is, the more creative the output is going to be. Because we're trying to copy a transcript, then we don't want our output to be that creative. We want it to stick to the prompt. So I've been finding 0.5 works well here, but try it out for yourself and test different creativity options. I don't really change anything else through here just yet. And now we have this particular section here. So I'm just going to delete this module, and now we're going to just run it again and see what happens. So that's going to run. We just need to come back into our Airtable, click the button, and if we come back into make, we can see that was going to run. And if we click up here, it has now created an output. So in order to find that output, we come down to bundle, choices in the one, and then message. The role is the assistant, and this is the content here. So that's giving us an example of what they've provided for our particular prompt. Now, what I don't like about this is I specifically instructed the headline to not have that semicolon in there. So what I'm going to do is try and refine this prompt a little bit to get a better output. So in here, we're going to say, do not use a semicolon in the title, and the title must be 4 to 7 words long. We're also just going to reduce this temperature down to 0.3 and see if it sticks a little bit better. Cool, so let's run this one again. So let's go run once, come back up, hit the button. Now it's running through here, it's creating this prompt, and then let's have a look at the completion. So message, the power of fats for dog health, and no semicolon. So just by tightening that up and not allowing too much creativity, it's got a little bit of a tighter choice. We could probably also ask it to create 3 versions so that we can choose from. Your task is to create 3 variations of engaging titles for this podcast. And we'll save that. And we won't test that just yet, because now we want to push this back into Airtable so that we have the record inside Airtable again. So we just go to update a record, and then we want to find our base, find our table, choose the record ID and map the record ID, which we can find down the bottom here, and then choose the record that we want to update. In this case, it's going to be title. And then we go to the OpenAI output, which is under choices, message, and then content here. Click OK. And now when we run this, it should push the data back in. So let's do it one more time. Run once, come back up here, press the button. And then if we just wait here for a moment, what should appear in the title here is going to be our 3 variations of titles to choose from. And there they are. So we can expand that record, have a look. and it got 2 out of 3 right. The third one has our semicolon in there, which I don't particularly like, but at least now we have a bit of a choice, and you can choose as many as you want here. So now that we've done the first one, then we just repeat the same process for the rest of them. So we would click this plus button here from the router, go to OpenAI, go create a completion, and then do the exact same steps for all of the other prompts. Okay, so here's one I prepared earlier. We can now start the clock to see how long it's going to take me to create the podcasts and go. So we've triggered the first automation now, and it's going to start popping up in all of these columns here in just a second. So first, let's open and expand this particular one. So boost your dog's longevity with healthy fats. So I'm just going to put this into the title here, and we'll run with that for the moment. Next, the introduction should be getting created as we speak. And here it is. So I'm just going to grab this and bring this down into here as well and begin editing while the others is happening. So in the episode of Pet Care Report, so I'm quite happy with that summary. So next, I've already edited the summary while this is now getting created. So what I don't like here, which we need to edit out, is where it says key point. So we would just come in, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of space so I can see where I'm at. We're just going to edit this bit out. It's pretty good as well. And that's another good section here. Next, we're going to check out these key timestamps, and we'll just add that to the bottom of our summary. And what I like about the timestamps is they're just one sentence that helps bring some curiosity to the podcast so people want to tune in, and I'm happy with all of that as well. So next, any notable quotes, we can grab that and always just double check the quotes as well, which I will do later. Just by checking the transcript, or we can simply do that now by just coming up and grabbing this quote here. And I copied the transcript from in here. And if I just go find, you can click that, and there it is exactly there in the transcript. So it's accurate. Next, we want to grab any resources that were mentioned, and it's done a pretty good job here of collecting all of those resources. So all we would do now is just double check all of these. So let's just check Instagram. Yep, that is correct. And what I would actually do is get my VA to go through and just link to all of those particular things. So that's basically the podcast steps done. And we did that entire thing in 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Okay, so now that we have our final summary that we're happy with, we just need to trigger this next one here. So we've got our podcast promotional assets, and it's set up in the exact same way as we just set up previously, but with our different prompts. For the promotional materials, I definitely recommend choosing GPT-4. It's just a better model for creating promotional stuff. So we have our prompts here. We have the max token set to 1024 because I like a much larger and longer email. And we've got our temperature set to 0.5. I might even go 0.4 because I like this to be really dialed into my instructions for emails. We've also then going to be pushing this back into the promotional email section. So that looks good. And then we've got the same setup for our social media posts. So by rights, what should happen now is this will then run in the background, and it will begin to create our promotional email and Facebook posts. So we can see here that something's happening, and we're just going to keep an eye on that for a moment. So it looks like that one got updated. Let's have a look. Task: the hidden danger in your dog's diet. So I don't like the way using furry friend. ChatGPT does that all the time. So that's one I would change. I think that's pretty solid for an email. And then our social media post is here as well. So again, I would just change this furry friend to pets diet. Again, a really solid post. So that literally took us 2 minutes and 22 seconds to get done. Just a quick little insert here while I'm doing the editing, and I forgot to record how much is actually spending in ChatGPT. So I set up the scenario again and ran it in this next section. Enjoy. Okay, so we're going to test this now, and I'm going to show you exactly how much it spends in OpenAI in order to create all of the materials we need. So if I just refresh my usage here, you can see that even with all of the testing that I've been doing over the last few days, I've only spent $2.71. So that's going to be our starting point. And now let's run the automation and see where it ends up. Okay, we now have all of the marketing materials that we need that have been created. Let's go back to our usage, and it has gone now from $2.71, and I hit refresh. And it takes a little while to update, but you can see now that we're at $2.99, which my math isn't that good, but I think that's about 28 cents to achieve all of the podcast notes and summaries and promotional materials, which is absolutely mind blowing. So it turns out that I've underpromised and over-delivered in this particular video. It didn't take us 5 to 10 minutes to do the editing. It took 2 to 3 minutes, which is absolutely mind-blowing. If you've made it this far in the video, then you are one of those people that is really understanding the power of this technology. So well done. If you are enjoying this tutorial, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I won't know whether to create more or not. So if you want more of these that will help you automate your business so you can make more money, be more efficient, serve more clients, make more impact, then make sure you let me know down below and subscribe as well. By the way, if you haven't checked out this video of how I scaled my pet care education business to multiple millions, then go ahead and do that now.